Stephanie White want this to be Kelsey Mitchell team, not Caitlin Clark's.
I had like Steph
the piece that they need in order to accomplish that championship.
It was the first time in my 8 years, and there's no disrespect to any coach, GM I had, like Steph, Lisa, like Steph was the first coach that I had in my 8 years that like, when she looked at me, you know how like somebody look at you, like, she really
That belief system Kelsey Mitchell just described, that's not normal coach-player trust. That's a coach looking a veteran in the eye and saying, "You're the cornerstone of this franchise." For the first time in 8 years, someone framed her that way. It's a powerful moment, an emotional one. But here's where it gets complicated. The Indiana Fever already have a franchise centerpiece, and her name is Caitlin Clark.
It's like an aha moment. I'm like, damn, like, she really believed in me. Like, and I felt it. Like, I could sense it. And anybody that know, like, yo, you get a bad hand or an indifferent hand dealt. That was the first time I got dealt a hand where I got a coach that like really like Lisa, she believed in like my abilities, and it made me feel like, I don't know, it made me feel like I kind of had like superpowers because that's all you really need. Like,
yeah, she gave you the ability to shoot the ball every time you touch it, but when Caitlin Clark starts shooting and she hitting shots, she calls a hero ball on Caitlin Clark. This is what I'm saying. And Kelsey Mitchell's a sweet woman, great basketball player. Maybe Kelsey Mitchell and Stephanie White should go get their own team. Maybe they should go away from Caitlin Clark and go do their own thing.
Well, you got like a coach that believe in you.
Listen to the way Kelsey describes that relationship. Stephanie White reached out before the season even started. She built the connection early, made Kelsey feel empowered like she had superpowers. And pay attention to what she revealed about her contract situation. She wasn't even sure she'd return to Indiana. Stephanie White stepped in, sold the vision, told her it was her team, her system, her moment. That's an elite recruiting pitch. But here's where it gets tricky. While Stephanie White was positioning Kelsey Mitchell as the #1 option, the rest of the basketball world was watching Caitlin Clark shatter rookie records across the league. Rookie of the year? Not even a debate. All WNBA first team. Led the league in assists. Broke the single-season assist record. And let's not forget she's the catalyst who helped transform Indiana from a lottery squad into a playoff contender in just one season.
To get into how she said Stephanie White believes in her so much. Stephanie White let her know, man, she's the #1 option. It's her team. Wild work. We got to fire Stephanie White.
See happening. You're a free agent. You know, you got the team. You got so much going on. Are you talking to these players like, you got kind of a duo or trio?
Yeah.
What are we doing in this offseason? Do you guys ever talk about those types of things?
We do.
No?
It's so crazy, Lisa. Like, I think the part that's, and I could be vulnerable and say this, and I know they wouldn't mind, is that we don't know what's.
Now we're getting to the real tension. Everything is unstable. The CBA negotiations have the league sitting in uncertainty. Players don't know what their contracts will look like. Teams don't even know what the salary cap will be. And in the middle of all that chaos, Kelsey Mitchell is bonding with her unrivaled teammates, strengthening connections around the league, openly saying she's unsure if she'll even be in the WNBA next season. That's not long-term security, that's a free agent mindset. And Stephanie White understands that. So what does she do? She doubles down. She makes Kelsey feel valued, essential, like the franchise revolves around her. From a coaching standpoint, if your goal is to retain an elite scorer, it's a smart move. But if your long-term vision is building around a generational talent like Caitlin Clark, that's where it could become complicated.
I'm trying to say, it's like, it's an unmatched feeling because it make you feel like
she can do anything.
Yeah, I could do anything. And when
that's right, I can do anything. And that's the truth. Kelsey Mitchell was balling last year, but Kelsey Mitchell also knows Stephanie White, she can do anything, and Caitlin Clark can't do nothing. That's the problem. Y'all gotta, somebody gotta step in and establish the pecking order around here again. Okay? Because Caitlin Clark, rookie year, post-Olympic break, we had things down pat. Stephanie White that came over here and messed everything up. She got Kelsey Mitchell believing she's the #1 option. It's her team. I can do anything. I could do anything out here. I could pull up from the opposite free throw line for all I want.
Let's talk about what Stephanie White actually said publicly. She called Kelsey Mitchell the #1 priority. Not one of the priorities. The priority. She said it before the season. She stood by it since. And now Kelsey herself is confirming that's exactly how she feels. For the first time in 8 years, A coach made her feel like that. Now think about what that signals for team chemistry. You've got Caitlin Clark, the reigning Rookie of the Year, the biggest draw in women's basketball, the player selling out arenas and smashing TV ratings, and her head coach is openly declaring someone else as the priority. How does that dynamic balance itself? Here's the reality about building a championship team. You need role clarity. Everyone has to understand where they fit, what's expected, and who takes the last shot when the game's on the line. By the end of 2024, the Fever had started to figure that out. Under Christie's sides, despite all the criticism, there was a defined structure. Caitlin ran the offense. Aaliyah Boston controlled the paint. Kelsey Mitchell thrived as the secondary scorer. It wasn't perfect, but it was clear and it was working. Then Stephanie White steps in and immediately frames Kelsey Mitchell like she's the franchise centerpiece. And look, it makes sense on one level. Kelsey was a free agent. She needed reassurance. She needed to feel valued and wanted. But there's a major difference between empowering a player and labeling her the number one option, especially when you have Caitlin Clark on the roster.
She's the number one option. She's the priority of the team. Basically, Stephanie White is telling Kelsey Mitchell it's her team. It's your team, Kelsey. That is the type of relationship Kelsey and Stephanie White has, with the belief that Stephanie White has in Kelsey Mitchell. And Kelsey also addressed the WNBA CBA that is going on, everything being in flux. We got to break it down only the way it gets broke down.
This unrivaled situation adds another layer to it. Kelsey's in Miami building real chemistry with players from other teams. She's talking about how close she's become with teammates like Eriko Gumbel, how they're leaning on each other through all the CBA uncertainty, how she genuinely doesn't know what her WNBA future looks like. That doesn't sound like someone locked in on returning to Indiana long term. That sounds like someone keeping her options open. And this is where Stephanie White's strategy could backfire. She went all in on making Kelsey feel like the franchise cornerstone. But if the CBA negotiations open the door to unrestricted movement, if Kelsey decides she wants to be the unquestioned number one option somewhere, without Caitlin Clark, then Indiana just spent an entire season elevating a player who might walk away. And in the process, what message does that send to Caitlin? Your head coach is publicly prioritizing another player. She's empowering that player to take any shot, to be the focal point, to operate as the centerpiece. How does that square with building around a generational talent who just delivered one of the greatest rookie seasons the league has ever seen?
Career, my teammates and the relationships is probably what I miss the most.
Yeah.
Same. The wins and the losses, they all come, the championships, all those moments, the sisterhood, but your teammates and that camaraderie. So I love that you guys are building that. And because
it's not that many of us, just enough. And so when you're not doing it by yourself, or you don't feel alone, it's not a good day for you or something like that. It's so breathtaking.
Like, does it affect the morale of like Unrivaled, or do you guys, or maybe that's what pushes you guys closer?
Yeah. It's like none of us know what our future holds. And so when we have these conversations about like what we want to do and what we do see and where we want to go potentially, it's like it comes from a place of understanding. And I love that about our group because we have different personalities. So and myself are not the biggest talkers, but when we have a talk and we do get vulnerable, oh my God, it's so much fun, Lisa. Like, it's like, you get a chance to really hang loose.
Yeah, I like when you use the word vulnerable.
She definitely does not want a lockout. You could tell Kelsey Mitchell wants to play. She doesn't want a lockout.
Because do you answer? So I shell that out
with this thing a little bit more freer than you thought you would, and so that makes it easier to deal with.
I love that. So
now, okay, so that was Kelsey Mitchell on the CBA. Now we got to get to this part, man. We got to get to this. Kelsey Mitchell addressing Stephanie White. And Stephanie White, we've heard Stephanie White ourselves say, Kelsey Mitchell's the number one priority. She was the number one priority last year. She'll be the number one priority this year. We've heard Stephanie White say that. Let's take a look at what Kelsey.
The way Kelsey describes the contrast is revealing. Stephanie White critiques her in a way that feels constructive, uplifting, personal. She builds her up, makes her feel supported. On an individual level, that's strong coaching. But coaching isn't just about one-on-one relationships. It's about crafting a unified identity, a structure where everyone understands the hierarchy. The Golden State Warriors didn't win titles by convincing Klay Thompson he was the number one option. They won because everyone understood the system, and everyone knew Steph Curry was the engine. That clarity mattered. So the question becomes, what Stephanie White is doing for Kelsey Mitchell, is it helping the team, or just helping Kelsey? Boosting her confidence is valuable. Elevating her production is important. But is it sustainable when you have Caitlin Clark, a player positioned to be the face of the franchise for the next decade, watching her coach publicly prioritize someone else? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Kelsey Mitchell is 28. She's in her prime. She's a gifted scorer who absolutely belongs on a winning roster. But she's not the long-term future of the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark is. Aaliyah Boston is. The organization's foundation has to be built around those two, with everyone else fitting into that framework. Right now, it feels like Stephanie White is trying to balance two competing realities. Keep Kelsey happy. Make her feel like the star. Retain her talent. But you can't build a championship contender with multiple players believing they're the top option. At some point, one voice has to be clear. One focal point has to be established. And if it isn't universally understood that Caitlin Clark is that centerpiece, then the team has a structural problem. Looking ahead, assuming the CBA gets resolved and next season moves forward, Stephanie White has built a relationship with Kelsey grounded in empowerment, making her feel like the franchise cornerstone. Kelsey has said she's never felt this level of belief from a coach. That's meaningful. But Caitlin Clark just completed a rookie campaign that shifted the entire landscape of women's basketball. She drew unprecedented attention, packed arenas, broke records, re-energized the Fever brand, and now she enters year 2 with a coach publicly elevating someone else as the priority. So what does Stephanie White truly believe about building a champion? Is it about distributing the spotlight evenly, making multiple players feel like the one? Or is it about establishing a clear hierarchy, recognizing that when you have a generational talent, everything flows through that player? Right now, it looks like she's trying to thread an impossible needle. Keep Kelsey Mitchell fully bought in by positioning her as the franchise player, while Caitlin Clark, the actual franchise centerpiece, observes from the inside. That dynamic doesn't hold long term. And let's be honest about Kelsey. She's a very good player. At times, a great one. She can erupt offensively. She hit big shots. She brings veteran stability. But she's not Caitlin Clark. She's not the player transforming ticket sales in opposing arenas. She's not the one redefining league-wide attention. She's not the generational pillar this franchise must build around. Short term, maybe this works. Maybe Kelsey resigns. Maybe the team returns to the playoffs. Long term, the foundation feels shaky. Because imagine the crucial moments. Fourth quarter, one possession game. Who takes the shot? If Kelsey has been told all year that it's her team, that she's the primary option, she'll expect the ball. But if Caitlin Clark is the player with the highest ceiling, the one the franchise's future depends on, shouldn't that possession belong to her? That's the tension. Competing expectations. Inflated roles versus organizational reality. And when those don't align, ceilings get capped. There's another layer here too. Kelsey openly discussing uncertainty about her WNBA future. Building relationships across teams. Acknowledging everything feels fluid. That's a player keeping options open. That's not someone declaring lifelong loyalty to Indiana. So Stephanie White invested heavily in making Kelsey feel like the franchise cornerstone, and Kelsey's posture remains flexible. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is firmly tied to Indiana. She is the brand. Whether it's said publicly or not, the more sustainable path might have been clarity from the start. Kelsey, you're essential. We need your scoring. We value your aggression. But this team is built around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. Your role is to be the elite complementary scorer that pushes us over the top. That's how dynasties are formed, not by telling everyone they're the star, but by identifying the star and structuring everything around them. Instead, Stephanie White chose empowerment over hierarchy, relationship management over structural clarity. So now Fever fans are left with a real question. Do you trust the vision? Does this staff fully recognize that Caitlin Clark must be the unquestioned centerpiece? Or is there too much focus on balancing egos and short-term attention? Because the reality is simple. Indiana's championship window depends on maximizing Caitlin Clark's prime. She's the catalyst. The system should amplify her. Every roster decision should be filtered through one lens. Does this help us maximize Caitlin Clark? Labeling Kelsey Mitchell as the #1 priority doesn't clearly pass that test. It may preserve relationships. It may stabilize the present, but it doesn't establish the hierarchy elite teams require. Maybe adjustments happen. Maybe roles become clearer. Maybe Kelsey thrives in a defined complementary position and everything aligns. That's the ideal scenario. But if Indiana spends years trying to make everyone feel like a franchise player instead of building around the one who truly is, it could become one of the biggest missed opportunities the league has seen. At the end of the day, the Fever do have a star, a generational one. The only real question is whether the organization will fully commit to building around her or keep trying to balance a structure that was never meant to hold two centers of gravity. What do you think? Is prioritizing Kelsey Mitchell a smart retention move? Or should everything system, messaging, identity run entirely through Caitlin Clark?